Flashes of light. Flashes are those events which bring about a conversion or a transformation in our lives. They are those negative experiences which help us to ponder deeply and to refocus our purpose of life and to get back on the right track. We will look at the life of some saints and look at those moments which were flashes for them. Flashes in the life of Saint Therese of Lisieux. Firstly, when her mother passed away when she was 2 years old due to cancer, she had a major crisis in her emotions. And how she went through this is a very important lesson for us to learn. Then, when Pauline joined Carmel, again she lost a mother figure and she became very upset and emotional. And she had many troubles, and finally, Our Lady herself cured her from her illness. And there she had a Christmas conversion where she did not ask for any more gifts because now she was a grown up girl. She managed to control her emotions. The fourth flash she had is when her entry to Carmel was delayed because of her age. She had to go for a pilgrimage all the way to Rome to meet the Holy Father. He gave his blessings, but he did not clearly state that what will be the outcome of the visit. But yet she patiently waited and finally she was allowed to join Carmel. The fifth flash was for separation from the father the day she joined Carmel because very attached to her father. And the day she joined, she felt the pain of not having a father with her for the rest of her life. The sixth flash in her life was her illness and the death of her father because he had a mental illness where he was losing his faculties and she could not bear to see his sufferings, especially when he used to come to visit her in the parlor. The seventh flash in her life are different trials which she suffered in Carmel, whether it was the sister who was shaking the beads in a weird way and making noises during prayer time, or those sisters who used to splash water on her, or those sisters which she could not get along, yet she tried her best to get along and made her her very good friend by smiling at her. And even those moments when she did not get what she required to get, and even when she was taunted and commented for her youth and her inability to work fast. All these were flashes in her life. And her last and major flash was during her last illness, where she suffered tuberculosis and she was bedridden and she was tormented in her soul because she felt abandoned by God. She also was suffering physically, and there was a moment she even wanted to consume some medicine in order to relieve her pain. So, these are the different flashes of her life. Next, we discuss Ignatius of Loyola and his flashes, which we call the cannonball moments in his life. The first cannonball moment was at Aravallo. This event is the downfall of his important mentor João and the hopes that he had, and the final end, everything collapsed. He was under tension between loyalty and reality, and the choices and the consequences, and the uncertainty about his own future, since his mentor had fallen apart from the king. And now, what was his future going to be? But he managed to look at it and move forward. He took the help of his aunt, who gave him some money and helped him to adapt to a newer situation. The second important cannonball or flash moment in the life of Saint Ignatius was at Pamplona, where he got an injured foot, and the fate of his new mentor was very depressing to him, and the interpretation of all the surgeries which he had to undertake in order to straighten his leg. This impacted his military career and had consequence on his health and psychological impact on his self-esteem. There was a shift of identity from all the external position, looks, pleasure, principles, etc. This was the breakthrough moment of his life when he found lasting joys and not the fleeting joys of this world, especially when he read the spiritual books in the hospital. The third cannonball or flash moment in life of Saint Ignatius was at Manresa. The three phases in Manresa and the desire to give up everything and go to a deeper level of insight. The stress that he had was the desire to be in control of everything. the things that were not going according to his plan, and the terrible fear and failure and loneliness that he faced. But he was constantly introspecting and sharing. He was adapting to the unknown, unseen, and allowing God to enter the life and to take the central stage. The narcissistic self centeredness, false ego, gives way to a more positive openness to God. He understands God's love is gratuitous and God is always there for him. The fourth cannonball or splash moment in the life of Saint Ignatius was when he goes to Jerusalem. His original plan was to get permission of the Pope, but he was uncertain as he was returning. There were high expectations for 3 years, which were undone. He faced loneliness and aloneness, and he was physically, mentally experiencing challenging situations and rejection. He was absolute certainty gives way to certain uncertainty, and learning to live with that uncertainty, growing in discernment, having greater clarity of understanding the fundamental goals of one's life, and shifting from external piety to depth of spirituality. The fifth cannonball of flash moment life of Saint Ignatius was at Salamanca, where he was told by the Archbishop of Toledo that he cannot engage in any ministry, and the disintegration of his group and his lonely journey to Paris. There was a lot of misunderstanding and accusations and risk of death, and he does not know whom to trust. There's failure to keep his companions together. He has no financial support for his studies and his academic requirements in Paris. So here he learns the futility of being the protagonist. The spiritual combat is an ongoing process. The subtle dynamics of the ego and false self, importance of learning new things, and he is reaffirmed in his understanding of the greater significance of a collective wisdom in a nuanced manner. The sixth cannonball moment in the life of Saint Ignatius was at Paris, where he complains about the authorities, the formation of a group, and notes the passive voice, the chaotic situation in Europe at that time. There was tension in Europe. First-hand experience he gets in Paris. There is danger of war and global impact. What to do with his studies? What was he going to do in the future? The group continue or to disperse? How to deal with the growing suspicion among the other people? The larger vision of the world, the longer duration of the experience, the unity and not uniformity was an indicator of God's presence, importance of learning and the dangers of ignorance, counteracting all the stress by facing it in a very mature manner. The seventh cannonball or flash moment in the life of Saint Ignatius was in Rome. The plan of going to Jerusalem does materialize, and the persecution in Rome, one of his own person betrays the group, misunderstanding among the new form of religious life, the institutionalization and the dangers of the charism in the church. And he was facing betrayal, misunderstanding, and he had uncertainty about the response of the Pope and the church authorities for his new way of being religious. He had self-doubts, hostility towards the Spaniards in Rome, struggle with his own vain glory and pride. But he let himself be led by God and not his own ego. He had courage and conviction that the truth will prevail. He had an inner freedom, that mysticism of loving service, the wisdom of a collective effort, and the deliberations of 1539. Coming to our own lives, we need to be aware of these flesh moments, the starting point and not the end of the process, recognizing that preciousness of oneself and also the blocks that are within me. The moment of breakthrough for Saint Ignatius took place when he became aware of the two types of satisfaction. The quality time in silence and prayer is required for awareness. A daily examine at the end of the day is also required. Being true to oneself and recognizing one's true self, letting go of what is transitory, becoming a person who knows interconnectedness of one's existence and living according to one's conscience and not getting swayed by attachments, pleasures, desires, but recognizing the sacredness in all and creation as well as oneself. That experience of Manresa, all coming from the divine and all going back to the divine, which is the principle and the foundation of Ignatian spirituality, was the turning point in his life. To find your flash moment, you need to have connection with the divine. The essence of the Ignatian spirituality is finding God in all things. For a spiritual person experiences God's presence all times because he is truly prayerful. Allow God to guide and lead your life. At the moment of stress, it may not be possible to see because of the intensity of the experience, but with repeated reflection, one begins to recognize the hand of God. For Ignatius did not always recognize it immediately, but in retrospective learned to be sensitive to the divine inspiration and see the presence of God at all times. Learn to move from egocentric to other-centric way of life. The more one gives up on the ego, the form of self-love and self-will and self-interest, the more you gain through fulfillment. Rooted in the experience of this gratuitous love of God, a love which is free and only needs to open oneself to this love. Every stressful situation has a potential of leading towards greater ego-centeredness and other-centeredness. The process of St. Ignatius growing in loving service is a lifelong process. When we have these flashes in our life, we have a choice to discern what is good and reject what is evil. The choices are rooted in life and love and lead to consolation, which are rooted in self-centeredness, and ego, which leads to desolation. As a person progresses spiritually, the person not disturbed by stress but can see divine hand in all situations. He is open to God and others. Stressful situations become moment of grace and growth. That is, they become flashes in their lives, the cannonball moments in their lives. So, life of a Christian has creative tension because it is a popular understanding of stress while keeping out the negative side of it. The indicators will reveal the source of stress that could be self or others. Spirituality is a middle path to avoid any extremes. Creative tension is a synergy of God's grace as well as human efforts. So the basic formula in our life should be V plus E is equal to A. So if you want to receive something in your life, you first have to visualize it, you have to vocalize it, and you have to put your emotion into it. You have to really believe, only then you will receive it. Only then the action will take place. The outcome will be actualized in your life. To live a life and being open to flashes, you need to first have the PERMA formula in life. P stands for positive emotion, E stands for engagement, R stands for relationships, M stands for meaning, and A stands for accomplishment. When all these diameters of your life are well balanced, you will be open to seeing the flashes and responding to them. The E of the PERMA stands for engagement, that is completely absorbed in something we enjoy and excel at. The action is very rewarding. It is basically the flow state. So engage yourself in your hobbies, talents, and other activities which you really love. The M of PERMA stands for meaning. Dedicate yourself to a cause, social cause, spiritual cause, any other world cause, environmental cause, and recognize something bigger than yourself. That will give you great joy and meaning in life. Learn to consciously and mindfully seek this PERMA in your life by systematically regulating your attention, energy, and influencing and possibly transforming the quality of your experience. Also know if you are a visual, auditory, or kinesthetic person. If you are a visual person, you prefer writing on the board, sitting in front, taking notes, using highlighters, flashcards, watching videos, and you prefer writing essays and listening to compositions. But if you're an auditory person, you prefer recorded information, reading textbooks, speaking, repeating information with your eyes closed, avoiding auditory distractions. You prefer oral exams and reading any text. If you're a kinesthetic person, you prefer games, visiting location. You prefer experiences, taking breaks, comfortable activities. You prefer multiple choice question, long written test, etc. So basically, we need to know what we are more attuned to. And basically, our flashes will come either through visuals, through auditory or kinesthetic means. The means we are more oriented to and we have trained ourselves to respond to. Coming to the P of PERMA, that is positive emotion. Let us discuss each of these. Joy. When we are surprised or delighted by an unexpected good thing, joy flows. Think of the moment you enjoy a fantastic meal at a restaurant or a visit that you planned with a friend. Joy is a signal that the situation is safe and encourages us to embrace the experience and savor the moments. Secondly, gratitude. Thankfulness is what emerges when we recognize that someone else's effort created a benefit for us. We feel grateful for gifts given, kindness is shown, time invested. That feeling of gratitude motivates us to consider ways that we might pay it forward by showing care and thoughtfulness to others. When we give to the universe selflessly, the universe will support us endlessly. Third, we have the pride. When we accomplish a goal or contribute in an important way, we feel proud for our abilities. We feel a sense of satisfaction, whether it's getting promotion, working hard, or sticking to a fitness goal for 6 weeks, recognizes our own abilities, provides us with a necessary motivation to continue setting and achieving goals in the future. Here, pride does not mean a haughty pride which wants to put others down, but a sense of achievement to boost one's self esteem. The fourth positive emotion is serenity. We feel serene and content when we find ourselves circumstances that are right and easy. Think of lazy Sunday morning with the family or enjoying a quiet walk through the garden, watching a beautiful sunset. Serenity encourages us to savor present moment, reevaluate our priorities, and deepen our understanding of ourselves. Always take pauses during the day to just ask yourself the question, what am I doing here? What is my intention? Fifth is interest. We get curious about the world when we encounter something new, feel safe to explore it. Especially interesting curiosity is especially among children when they learn a new subject, when they visit a new neighborhood, when they get some new things. They always want to explore and learn so that they can gain new knowledge. But this factor has to continue even adulthood. When we feel mundane and life seems not to bring us new encounters, we need to build a curiosity and interest. Sixth positive emotion is amusement. From refined fit to slapstick comedy, amusement, humor is the emotion tied to laughter, a good joke, funny movie, standby comedy. However you chose to, laughter is the best medicine. Whatever it is that makes you chuckle when we do it with others, it strengthens our relationships and bonds with other people. A more spiritual positive emotion, number 7, is hope, which is a positive emotion we feel when we envision a bright future and helps us to through the hard times. Although it may be accompanied by fear, sadness, hope pushes us to take steps to create a better tomorrow. That my future will be better and I will have a better optimistic approach and resilience in life. The eighth positive emotion is inspiration. When we see another person act from the best of themselves, give a good speech, or give a good presentation, we are inspired to strive for the best. Whether we witness an act of high moral character or performance displaying excellence and mastery, inspiration helps us connect the greatness in others to the potential for greatness in ourselves. Basically, beauty is one virtue which creates an inspiration. When we see order, discipline, beauty, creativity, it inspires us to think higher, basically think about divine and spiritual things and our purpose in life. The positive emotion of awe is truly awesome when it pulls us and brings us in a sense of connectedness to something bigger than ourselves. A grandiose goodness, beauty, like a view of the starlight sky from a remote place, can stop us in our tracks, overpowered by wonder and respect, or even transforms our view of the world and our place in it. It is a deep sense of fear mixed with great respect and wonder. The 10th positive emotion is love, which is the most frequently felt positive emotion and most misunderstood emotion. It is more than just a feeling, it is a responsibility. But these moments allow us to know others more deeply and focus on their well being. These moments over time also are manifested in genuine caring, forging intimacy and trust. Basically, love has love languages, and we need to identify the other person's love language in order to make them really and truly feel loved. When we consider the flashes of our lives, we have to be aware of how they come about in our lives, especially through the positive emotions, engagement, the relationships, the meaning in life, and our accomplishments. And these moments will transform us and help us to live better lives.